Hi everyone, it's me, Andrea from Andy's Corner, and I'm so glad that you joined me today. I hope that you watched my video from last week about Rebecca and Isaac, the camels, and Eleazar. It's a really interesting story. And this week, I'm excited to share with you what we'll be reading from the Bible Animal Storybook, written by Mac Thomas. This story is called The Striped Spot and Speckle Story. It was a golden summer evening, just right for a bedtime story. Granny Nanny, the oldest goat in Father Jacob's herd, was waiting under the big old oak tree. But the little goats and sheep were fidgeting here and there, complaining about their markings. Just look, Granny Nanny, and see what we've got. Everywhere a spot or a dot or a jot. And some of us are streaked and some have speckles. Some are flecked and some have freckles. Some have blots and some have blotches. Some wear stripes or sprinkles or splotches. Everywhere a speckle or a stripe or a spot. Granny, they're ugly, the marks that we've got. Granny just smiled and said, I know a story just about that. So come on over where Granny's at. The lambs and kids flocked around her saying, Bah, bah, bleat, bleat, bleat. Granny tells stories that can't be beat. When everyone is close and quiet, Granny said, Your many markings may seem a bit odd until you remember they were given by God. Ooh. How do you know? Said the little goats and sheep. Tell us, Granny Nanny, before we go to sleep. Granny Nanny settled down in the grass, lifted her eyes to the evening star, and began. She told how Jacob once lived in a faraway country. Father Jacob spent 14 years there, she said. He worked long and hard to care for his uncle's animals. Then the little goats and lambs around Granny Nanny chanted, 14, 14 long, hard years. Hard work up to his ears. That's right, said Granny. Jacob labored very, very hard with his uncle's sheep and goats. Sometimes the sun was so hot it burned his nose. But Jacob stayed in the field with those animals. Sometimes his night was so cold it nearly froze his toes. But Jacob didn't leave. There were times when a little lamb was so sick or afraid and needed his help, and Jacob got almost no rest at all. Finally, Jacob decided it was time to leave that faraway country and go to God's promised land, and he had a big family to take with him. He asked his uncle if he could also take some of those sheep and goats and that he'd been watching over so well all those years. But Jacob's uncle didn't want him to go, and he didn't want him to take any sheep or goats either. So Jacob said, Okay, uncle, I'll work a little longer for you, and when it's time for me to leave, I'll take only the sheep and goats that have stripes or speckles or spots. Then the little ones at Granny Nanny's knee said, What a strange thing! We're quite perplexed. Tell us, dear Grandnanny, what happened next? I surely will, Granny said. That very night, Jacob saw a newborn goat, and that baby kid had spots all over it. And do you know who that baby was? The little one answered, No, Granny Nanny, who could it be? It was me, said Granny. That baby was me. And from that time on, smiled Granny, almost all the newborn goats and all the newborn sheep on that farm had stripes or speckles or spots. Suddenly, All around Granny, the little goats and lambs jumped and danced and shouted, "Why, Granny Nanny, why, oh why? That's as crazy as camels that fly in the sky. It's as funny as foxes who eat pepper pie. Ugh. So why, dear Nanny, tell us why?" Granny Nanny wrinkled her nose and said, "Well, little meadow munchers, I know Jacob tried to make it happen, but it was God who really did it. And Jacob said so himself." See, there's Jacob with all the goats and sheep. So when Jacob and his family came to the promised land, they brought along more striped and speckled and spotted animals than you could shake a tree branch at. And those very animals were your grandfathers and grandmothers, your fathers and your mothers. So all the striped lambs and kids around Granny smiled and said, "We've got no gripes about our stripes." And all the spotted lambs and baby goats said, "We like spots lots and lots." And the speckled lambs and baby goats said, "We've just been thinking about our speckles, and we wouldn't trade 'em for a bowl full of shekels." Then everybody went to sleep, Granny Nanny too. If you'd like to read more about the real story of how those sheep and goat got stripes and speckles and spots, that's a mouthful. Read Genesis 30, verse 25 through Genesis chapter 31 through verse 51. So, sometimes we think that we're different than everybody, and maybe people make fun of us, and it's not normal. Something about us might be different. Maybe our nose is bigger, our ears are bigger, maybe our hair is a different color or really curly. Like I have curly hair, and sometimes it's so frizzy. But you know what? That's okay because God made you exactly that way. And there's a reason why you have blue eyes or brown hair, whatever it is, or big ears. There's a reason why. So sometimes when you feel like you're being made fun of or you were made different, talk to God and say, "God, give me peace about why I was made different. Help me to understand why you made me different." And listen, and he will speak to you. Read his word, and he'll show you why. Okay? I hope you enjoyed that story about the sheep and the goats and the lambs and the kids. I did. All right. See you again later. Bye.